Hello, so in this video we are going to go over how we solve equations and evaluate expressions. So this is a skill that you probably have learned previously, so hopefully this is review. So just make sure that you're taking good notes. Everything that is written down in video should be written down in your notes. So make sure that you are copying down what I'm doing. All right, so let's go ahead and just take a look at number one. So what they want you to do is solve the equation. So when you're solving an equation, your goal is to get the letter, which is called the variable, by itself, okay? Now, in order to do this, you have to do what's called the inverse operations. All right, and inverse basically means opposite. All right, so you have to do the opposite operations to get the variable by itself. We call that isolating the variable. So when we're looking and we're trying to get this p by itself, the first thing you're going to want to do is get rid of this -2 here. All right, so we're trying to get rid of this -2, and you have to think, well, what's the opposite of -2? That's going to be +2. So when you're solving equations, what you do to one side, you do to the other. So I'm going to do the inverse of -2, which is +2, and I add 2 to both sides. So then these guys cancel out. -2 plus 2 gives me 0. So I'm left with 5p plus 0, which is just 5p. And then I add these two numbers on the right-hand side, which gives me 50. All right. So now I'm going to continue to try and get my p by itself. I again need to do an inverse operation. 5p means 5 times p. All right, so to undo this times p, I'm going to do the inverse of times 5, which is divided by 5. And again, what you do to one side, you do to the other. So I'm going to divide both sides by 5. And these two 5s cancel out. 5 divided by 5 is 1, which gives me 1p, which is just p. Then I get 50 divided by 5, which gives me 10, and that is my answer. All right, so let's go ahead and try the next one. We're going to go ahead and do number 3. So again, we're trying to solve the equation, and we are trying to get this x by itself. Now, typically, and this isn't all the time, and you'll see examples of where this isn't the case, but a lot of times you want to do the addition and subtraction before you do the multiplication and division. So looking here, we're going to want to get rid of this -5. Okay, so I want you to think, what is the inverse operation of -5? How are we going to get rid of this -5? So in order to get rid of this -5, we're going to add 5 to both sides. All right, these go away. Now, one important thing is do not lose the sign in front of this 2. It's a -2x, so it stays as a -2x. Do not lose your signs. That's a huge error that people tend to make. So we get -2x equals, and then we're going to end up doing 9 plus 5, because what you do to one side, you do to the other, which is going to give me 14. All right. Then I'm going to go ahead, do the inverse of times -2, right? Because it's -2 times x. So what is the inverse of times -2? It's going to be divided by -2. So -2 divided by -2 gives me 1, so I'm left with just x. And then 14 divided by -2 is going to give me -7. All right. Now, one thing, if you've forgotten how to plug negatives into your calculator, you should get your calculator out now and do it with me. So when you do negatives in your calculator, you have to use this button that looks like this. It's in that bottom right-hand corner on your TI-84. So if I wanted to do 14, so I do 14, and then I do the division symbol, divided by, and then I'm going to do -2. So I did that, this guy here. Do not do just the minus sign. You want to make sure you do the parentheses negative symbol. And then that would give you the -7. So in case you've forgotten how to put negatives into your calculator, that is how you do it. All right, next one. So for this one, there's actually two different ways to solve this. So I'm going to do it both ways, actually, so you can see both ways. So the first way, I feel like this is what most students want to do, is they want to distribute this, which that works. Let's go ahead. Whenever you see a number right next to a parentheses like this, you can distribute it to the expression inside. So we're going to go ahead and distribute this 5. So we're going to do 5 times x, which is going to give us 5x, and then 5 times 3, which is going to give us 15. And then we're going to go ahead and solve from there. So what do you think is going to be my first step here to solve? So my first step is going to be the opposite of plus 15, which is going to be minus 15. We're going to subtract 15 from both sides, and we get 5x equals, and then 65 minus 15 is going to give us 50. Wow. 50. All right. And then we're going to go ahead and do the next step. So what is my next step going to be here? I am going to divide both sides by 5. So I get x equals 10. All right. So this is how you would solve something like this. Now, there is another way you could do this, and I'm going to show you the other way you could do this as well, because I think it's important that you know both ways to solve. So let me go ahead. I'm going to copy paste it over here. And again, make sure that you are copying down the notes as I go through this. Don't just watch me. I'm going to look to make sure that you did your notes. So make sure that you are taking them as we go. All right. So another thing you can do, since this 5 is being multiplied by the everything else on this side, right? It's 5 times all of this. You can actually divide both sides by 5 right away. And you're able to do this because everything on this side is being multiplied by 5. All right. So what we can do is divide both sides by 5. And what that's going to do is that is going to cancel this 5 out, and we get x plus 3 left over because that 5 goes away. And then you're going to have 65 divided by 5, which is going to give you 13. Then what would I do here to solve? I'm going to go ahead and subtract 3 from both sides. Do the opposite of plus 3. So I, again, get x equals 10. All right, let's try another one. So here, again, I want to try and get my variable by itself. So first thing I'm going to do here is get rid of this negative 5. So I'm going to add 5 to both sides. So I get r over 3 equals, and I'll show you guys how to do this one in your calculator. Negative 3 plus 5. So you're going to go ahead and plug in negative 3 plus 5. Tell me what you get. You should get 2. All right. Again, I just want to make sure you guys know how to use your calculator properly, or if you know how to add and subtract integers in your head, even better. I love it. All right. So then we're going to go ahead and we need to get the r by itself. Well, it's r divided by 3, right? R over 3 means r divided by 3. So in order to do the inverse of divided by 3, we're going to go ahead and multiply both sides by 3. So then we get these 3's cancel out, and we get r equals 6. And that is our answer there. So again, the inverse of divided by 3 is multiplied by 3. All right. Let's see. We're going to go ahead and skip to number 13. So let's go ahead and skip to number 13. Now, so far, there's only been one variable. Well, I guess there still is one variable, but in this case, it's on both sides of the equation. All right. So what we need to do is we need to try and get the variables on the same side of the equation, all right? This is what's called a multi-step equation, where you got to do a couple different things to solve. So I'm looking here, and the first thing I'm going to want to do is distribute. All right, this thing right here is screaming distribution. So I'm going to go ahead, and again, how you know something's distribution is when you have a number right in front of the parentheses like this. So that tells you that you're going to distribute to whatever is inside of the parentheses. So I'm going to distribute not just a 3, I need to distribute a -3, okay? So we're going to distribute a -3, and -3 times 2 is going to give me -6v, and then -3 times 2 is going to give me a -6. Then I can just drag this down, and when you have variables on both sides, or the same variable on both sides of the equation, typically what you want to do is get all of the variables on the same side. So you're going to combine like terms. So what I got to do is I got to bring one of these v's over. It doesn't matter really which side you get it on. You just need to get it on one side of the equation. So let's go ahead. I'm going to move this -6v over. So keep in mind, whenever you are jumping across the equal sign, right, you got to do the opposite. So in order to bring this -6v over, I have to do the inverse operation. So -6v is going to be +6v. Now, here you are going to combine the two terms with the same variable. You don't want to combine the 24 and the 6 because those are not like terms. Like terms have to have the same variable with the same power. So here we've got -v plus 6v, okay? Keep in mind, -v is the same as -1v, okay? We just don't put that 1 there. So if we were struggling, we could go to our calculator, and I would just do -1 plus 6, because what I'm doing is I'm adding those numbers in the front. So I end up with 24 plus 5v equals -6. Do not lose the negative in front of the 6 there. All right, it's got to stay with it. So then we can go ahead and finish solving here. So next thing I want to do is subtract 24 from both sides. And I get 5v equals, and -6 minus 24. Again, you're going to want to go on your calculator. If you can do it in your head, that's even better. I do want you to know how to do this in your head, but for right now, I'd like for you to, make sure you know how to use your calculator as well. So we could do -6 minus 24. And that's going to give me a -30. And let's say you plug this in wrong. If you got some sort of an error, like this, I think your error on your calculator would be a little bit different. Let's say you had used the minus sign instead of the negative sign, you might get an error. So make sure that you're using, for negative numbers, this guy. All right. And then we're going to go ahead. We got to continue getting v by itself. So I'm just going to go ahead and divide by 5, and I get v equals -6. All right, awesome.